When it comes to sex, I'd like for you to remember three things: cats, cars, and old guitars. I'll explain it to you, and hopefully it'll make sense. And I think if you'll remember these things, it will serve you and your lover well. First time I had sex, it felt like it lasted about 5 seconds. I think it might have been a little bit longer than that, but probably not much. And I just remember, skin. I just remember it's the first time I'd felt a woman's skin completely naked against my completely naked body. And it was wonderful, and then it was over. And I thought, I think that old poem, the Ode to a Grecian Urn, is actually wrong. There's a poem about this urn, and this man is pursuing a woman, and they're captured where he almost captured, on the urn, the picture on the urn, he's almost reaching his lover, and they're captured like that for centuries because it's an old Grecian urn. And the poet says, it's wonderful that they're captured in this most delightful moment. I would say that's wrong. The best part is not right before you get it. The best part is while you're having it. And so I wanted it to last longer. And in high school, my nickname was Professor. Yes, I was the ultimate nerd and finished high school as a virgin. Not that that made me a nerd, but I was a nerd, and that probably contributed to finishing high school as a virgin. Anyway, so the first time I had sex was the summer after I finished high school. And I thought, I need to learn how to make this longer. And so the things that were spoken about back then are still being spoken about. It was the squeeze technique, which I never liked. It's like blowing your nose and holding it where nothing can come out. It's really just another form. It's a variation on another form called interruption. So you have the squeeze technique. You have interruption, which means just stopping. Well, your lover can get frustrated with that, and you just stop the pleasure. So that felt to me not best. It felt to me like I would like it better if I could just keep having sex and not have to stop. So you had the squeezing, which is like blowing your nose with a clothespin on it, not good, and squeezing as something to do when you're interrupting, which didn't sound like fun. And then there was numbing creams. And back then, I guess they still exist, but back then you could, in the same thing in the gas station where you put the quarter in or 50 cents and you got the condom, you could also get the numbing cream to put on your penis to make it last longer. But then, how fun is that? So then it gets on her and she can't feel you, and gets on your mouth and your hands, and okay, things go longer, but having things go longer and not being able to feel them, especially her as well. Maybe you feel enough, but maybe she doesn't feel so well. It just felt like, to me, not the best thing. And then there was the numbing cream with the condom on top of the numbing cream, which is numbing times 2. And it just felt unsatisfactory. So I went on a search. Remember, I'm the professor. And actually, after high school, I went to college, got a degree in chemistry, math, got a job as a research chemist, physical chemist. So I was kind of bent towards experimenting. And so that's what I did. I started reading and experimenting. And by the end of the summer, I reached what I call the first level of control of your ejaculation. By the way, premature ejaculation has been defined and redefined so many times over the years. If you look at the stats, I think the average is something weird, depending on who you read, what research you read, somewhere between 3 and 10 minutes. And somehow, if you're come into that length of time, I'm getting to the cats, cars, and old guitars. If you get into that time frame, you're normal. Well, here's where we're going to talk about cars. What if you had a car that only went a certain distance. It would go, let's say, 2 miles, and that's how long it takes you to get to the store to buy groceries. And your job is 2 miles away. So it serves you well. But suppose you want to go on a long vacation and tour the country and go all the way to California if you live in the southeast and you have to cross the whole continent. Well, your car won't get you there. So I'm not saying the goal is to always go all the way across the continent every time you get in your car. That's not the goal. But you want a car that will get you to the store, and it will also get you from Florida to Alaska if you want to drive that far, or from Alaska all the way down to the Florida Keys. Why not? So I like to define premature ejaculation. To me, it's almost get rid of the whole term, because think in terms of a whole nother level, not just avoiding premature, as in your engine dies when you get to the end of the driveway before you even get to the store. I like to define it as lovemaking and connection for as long as it needs to be that day, as vigorous or as tender, as soft or as hard as it needs to be that day. Sometimes you drive your car 10 miles an hour, sometimes you drive your car 70 miles an hour. Or if you're out west, maybe on those long stretches across Texas, you go another speed, which you don't even see on camera because maybe a state trooper, I don't know, can retrograde, find out how fast you went. So, cars. Think of your lovemaking in that way. If you had to go 1,000 miles every time you went to buy a loaf of bread, that would be demanding of your lover this long extended lovemaking, when really what's appropriate that day on the way to work is a quickie, a connection. Quickie somehow does it injustice. A short connection, a breath. That didn't take me very long. It was quick. But it was what I needed to feed my brain, to feed my organs. And sometimes a very short interaction is the most beautiful, wonderful, needed thing. Not every time do I get in my car intending to go 1,000 miles. Nice. And it just took a few seconds. And so lovemaking can be almost a kiss. It can be as short and as brief and as beautiful as a kiss. And then other days it can be like pranayama or some amazing thing that's tantric and something without words. So that's what I set out to do. I wanted it to last as long as I wanted. It was summertime. I had days sometimes before I started college, and we had all night because whatever. So I set out to figure that out. And by the end of the summer, I could go as long as I wanted. But it wasn't by squeezing, quit squeezing, interruption, and I didn't need the numbing creams anymore. Other ways. Now, where did I go to find the different ways? Well, first I experimented. I read the anatomy books. I read the Kama Sutras cover to cover. You know, the Indians wrote this beautiful book about sex a couple of thousand years ago, and if you've only read the Cosmo short version, you haven't read it. So, of course I read the English translation, but I did this and I learned to make it to a different level. Now I'm 60 years old. This was when I was 17, 18 years old. So I've had 42 years to practice. And, you know, I'm telling you personal things, I might as well tell you. So when I was in my 20s, I had a lover in her 50s. In my 50s, I had lovers in their 20s. So I've had women that were 30 years older than me and 30 years younger than me. I've had women on multiple continents. I've had women who got angry at me, women who fell in love with me. I've had women of many different shades of color and of many different personalities. I'm not here to recommend that be a thing. I'm telling you that out of that experience of being professor, experimenter, combined with searching for what can be what's possible. The Sutras told you what was possible a couple of thousand years ago. The Chinese have written about it. The Israelites wrote about it. Leonardo da Vinci wrote about it. Freud wrote about it. Thoreau wrote about it. Benjamin Franklin wrote about it. They all wrote about it, and they wrote about a different level. So there's a level that's not just, of course, there's a level that your car only goes to the end of the driveway, and that's going to frustrate your lover. There's a different level where you can drive your car as far as you want, and that's nice. But then there's a third level where not only can you drive your car as short or as far as you want, but there's another understanding. So let's talk about cats and old guitars now. First of all, here's the problem. So when I was about, I don't know, somewhere in high school, college, I'm watching our pussycat in the backyard. And there was a tomcat who had mounted her. If you've never seen alley cats have sex, I highly recommend you watch it because it's very instructional. So the tomcat has mounted the pussycat, and if you ever watch it, you'll see that they grab the pussycat by the nape of the neck with their mouth to hold her in place. I'm not saying that's what you should do with your wife, but I'm getting to an instructional part. So while he's holding her, he has sex with her. It lasts a matter of seconds, a minute max. It's usually a few seconds. Same with lions. Doesn't take that long. But she stays in place, and there's a line of tomcats behind her. This particular evening, I remember 3 or 4 cats were lined up behind her. And they make these amazing sounds. It sounds like a baby crying. So they're making these sounds of babies crying. And of course, the tomcats that are in line have been fighting each other. Oftentimes, their ears are ripped apart and they're bleeding, and they're in line based on who dominated the other tomcat to be the next person, the next cat in line. So a pussycat can actually have kittens from more than one tomcat. She may have a litter of 6 kittens, and 2 might be from one tomcat and 4 from another tomcat in the same litter. So what does that tell you about nature and how we're designed? We were designed, I think, there's this part of us that we were designed so that we contribute our sperm very quickly, and then we're out of the line. And nature has no real purpose for us, at least for the next few moments, because now the sperm's been deposited, and if we have bad sperm, maybe our stronger sperm might need to be also deposited. So the pussycat is inclined to have one tomcat after another, and then may the best sperm win. And after one tomcat, while the tomcat is mounted on her, nature has designed it where he's not there very long, and then after he ejaculates, he loses his fight. Now he's out of the picture. He goes and climbs up under a bush somewhere, and he's gone. At least gone out of the urge to fight to be the next person in line. So you're actually designed, I think there's somewhere back in your lizard brain, we were designed to have a quick ejaculation and then become impotent, not just with a limp penis in this refractory period where we can't contribute sperm, but limp and call it impotent brain or a non-erect brain, because we have this huge surge of prolactin that makes your, after you ejaculate, which makes your sex drive go down, but also makes your creativity go down. It makes your intelligence go down. So when Thoreau talked in Walden about continence, he wasn't talking about urine, continence, or the not ejaculation leading to genius and holiness and intelligence and bravery, he was experiencing that. Your high school teacher didn't read you that part when you read Walden in high school. He was not just living by this pond in a little hut that he built. He was also not masturbating and watching how that affected his brain. Thoreau talked about how he thought Leonardo da Vinci was doing that same transmutation of sexual energy. Napoleon Hill talked about the transmutation of sexual energy being something that Edison and Ford practiced, and how most of the, not most, he said all of the very wealthy men that he met in his writing of that book had very high sex drives, but they were not wasting it. They were transmuting that energy into creativity and the making of money. Well, it's not just the making of the money, it's connection. So there's this different level where there's this frustrating level where you can only drive your car to the end of the driveway. There's another level where you can drive your car to the end of the driveway or all the way across the continent. There's a third level where after you have this control, now you can also regulate and transmute to enhance your creativity, your energy, your health, to enhance your relationship, your connection with your lover, your romance, you don't become the cat that comes out of the line. You basically, effectively become the whole line. There is no need for another tomcat because you're there. You whipped all the other tomcats and sent them to the bush. You ripped all their ears off, and the pussycat has no need for another tomcat to be in the line because you're there all night long if that's what she needs. You can't do that unless you learn to first control your ejaculation and have it be there quickly if it's time to make a baby or for other reasons, or instead of being there's emission and then there's ejaculation. So instead of ejaculation, you could have this emission and this transmutation. Now, if that sounds like something that you've never heard before, it's probably because you never heard before. Your high school teacher showed you how to put a freaking condom on in the 10th grade. That was your sex education, other than watching pornography that was made for entertainment, not necessarily for instruction. Not that you can't learn from pornography, but you're probably not going to learn this. Now, we actually have some stars that will help teach some of this. That's coming later. But that will be a different process than when they're entertaining. So, what's new? What is it that I'm offering you? I'm offering to teach you. I'm 60 years old. I've been practicing this for 42 years. So I practice it perfectly. Have I lived? No. Have I lived this stress-free, conflict-free life? No. But have I learned something that you can learn from my pain, my experience, my reading, my taking care of thousands of women and men, thousands, and helping them with their sexuality, teaching thousands, literally, of physicians about sexuality, and teaching and researching, inventing new procedures, new methods. I can take all that and I can hopefully help you learn how to have a different experience of sexuality. The first step, of course, is learning how to control emission and ejaculation. Now, what's this have to do with old guitars? If you read the whole Sutras, I'll give you the spoiler. After it tells you amazing things to do that makes 50 Shades of Grey look like a kindergarten book, the conclusion is the best sex is with one man and one woman. By the way, if you're lesbian or gay, there's still yin and yang within that relationship, so understand. I like when people love each other. Inside we're souls. We're souls that happen to have different genitalia. And so you can convert that to yin and yang if you want. But when a man and a woman is together for an entire lifetime, that's like the old guitar. In other words, you could pick up 20 new guitars and strum them for 3 chords and put them down. I think that could be more like just the player. You know what? You could cut your freaking penis off and still get 1,000 girls naked. You learn to pick them up. You learn to say the right things. You do this stuff. You learn the tricks. It's like a magic trick. You can get a girl naked. But trying to make it take a woman to another level of sexuality, trying to become the whole line of tomcats to that one pussycat, and transmuting that to a different level of spirituality and experience and intelligence and inspiration, like Thoreau did. That's a whole different thing. And so Google Willie Nelson's guitar. He's got a hole worn in that freaking guitar. And to anybody else, if you didn't know if it was Willie Nelson's guitar, it might be worth nothing in a pawn shop. But to him, it's the most invaluable thing, because he's written his songs, The Red-Headed Stranger, and all these amazing songs, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, and he's made people cry and laugh and entertain them for decades with that guitar. And the music, that's the thing about it, the music that he can get out of that instrument, that's his instrument. Would he let you pick it up and play it? I don't know, maybe. I don't know that this metaphor extends, how far it extends if the guitar is your lever, but I know this: when you get to this level where you can go the end of the driveway or you can go across the continent, you start to hear new music. And now it's not just about getting off. I mean, the getting off part would be your sensation of strumming the guitar. But the guitar has feelings too, and the guitar plays for you, and it gives you music that inspires you. That's your lover's moans, your lover's affections, your lover's tears, your lover's urinating, your lover's ejaculating, your lover's sweating and moaning and screaming. That's that guitar playing. And you can't, if you're picking up one guitar after another, I don't know, maybe you're learning a little bit about guitars, but eventually you pick that one up and, oh, wow, this fits my hand. This one feels right. You don't want to put it down. Or whatever your instrument is. Maybe you play the flute or the piano or the drums. I've got a younger son that's a jazz drum player. Like, he's got his drums. Don't touch them. Those are his drums. And he can make magic with those drums. Another son's a piano player. Okay? So you pick up your instrument. It fits your hand. Well, what if you have to stop after 3 chords? You can't learn to play it. You can't get the music out of it. I don't know. Maybe none of this makes sense, but I think it does. And I've had the privilege, the honor, the sacred honor of coaching, teaching, helping people heal as a physician, as a teacher, as a lover, helping a woman learn her body. That's what I want to teach you. So there's a link under this video that will take you to things that might help you, and I would be honored if you would trust me to show you what I know.